Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Cafecito Time. I am tuning in. I'm Cindy from Official Lawtina. We've been doing this for 3 weeks, and this is our third week, and this is our second time this week. We are going to be talking to Ashley Alvarez. So let me put a pin on here while those are signing in to watch. All right, so we're meeting with a good friend, Ashley Alvarez, today from Oye Prima. So let me read a little bit about her. Advocate, attorney, and founder of Oye Prima, a platform using storytelling to build bridges between cultures and communities by bringing awareness to the moments, people, and neighborhoods that shape us. Currently, Ashley holds the title of Senior Associate Director of Allied Groups and Labor Engagement at the DNCC. So I'm so excited to have her here speaking with us today about non-legal careers to the law degree. So what else can you do with a law degree? That's what we'll be discussing today. So let me add her on a call here. Hey!
Hi! I'm such an abuelita with technology.
No problem. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ashley. I'm excited. We have quite a lot of people that are logging in to see what we're going to be talking about today. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
yeah. So where are you calling from today so our viewers know?
I am calling from Chicago, and it is raining.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have you. So we're talking about, and I kind of read your bio a little bit earlier for those that may not know. So Ashley, she runs Oye Prima, which is a share a lot of community and culture through the page. So if you want to follow her, go ahead. She does some great work, and she does Vuelo Wednesdays, which I love, and shares stories about grandparents and our life, which is pretty cool. So today we're talking about non-legal careers for for those who have a law degree. So you might use some of those skills about having a law degree. So that's what we'll be discussing today. So why did you decide to attend law school? Let's just kind of get to it.
Yeah. So it's a little personal for me. My parents got divorced when I was younger, and I spent a lot of my childhood growing up in different aspects of the court system. So for me, I knew at like 11 that was the path that I wanted to go. I didn't know like 100% what I was getting into because I was a kid, but I was like, that's what I want to do. And I stayed pretty committed to that.
Oh, wow. Wow. And when did you, I guess, go to law school? When did you graduate?
I graduated in May of 2017.
2017. Awesome. So you were like a year before me. And you took the bar, so you're a licensed attorney, you passed the bar, correct? So
Yes.
congratulations again on that. I know that you said your anniversary was coming up, so that was pretty cool.
Yes. Oh, I actually, where is it? I just got my shirt in the mail
Oh, you did? Ah, awesome.
to wear for my 1 year anniversary.
Oh, La Esquire shirt. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It looks great. I can't wait.
Excited.
That's really cool. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you. We're getting some comments here. It says, yes, Heffa. So as we're going through you, I do ask that you make comments, that you, for our audience to drop in anything that you like to ask Ashley as we're going through this today. So I guess, how did you become interested in the job that you're doing right now? How did you end up from, wanting to be an attorney to what you do now?
Yeah. I think I would have laughed at me a while back ago, especially in law school. I was like, I can't believe people go to law school and they don't use their degree. Like, I thought that was crazy to me because it's so expensive, it's so emotional. But I've always been interested in a lot of different things. And for me, it was very easy to fall down this path. I was always being pulled in this direction. It's a lot of outreach, community work, national organizations that are allies to the Democratic Convention. So it was just a natural fit for me in my life work, if that makes sense. So it's only been a temporary break. I haven't stopped law. I mean, I'm still licensed. I will always keep it that way, but I haven't stopped law for too long. It's been like 2 months. So
Yeah. And was this your first position that where you didn't use your current, like your legal, like right after law school, or did you do something else before that?
So before this, I worked at a law firm and also did lobbying. So for lobbying, you don't need a law degree. It has a lot of aspects of it where, it definitely makes you more well-rounded with the job, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of when I had an opportunity to work with the government in my state, we had a lot of lobbyists too. That was something that I didn't know that a lot of attorneys would go into until later in life, that kind of transferred that way. So,
Yeah.
what's something that attracted you to doing the switching over from that law firm job to what you're doing now?
Um, Honestly, it's the year. Like this 2020 is so crazy. We're going through things that we've never experienced. I mean, this is unprecedented times, but in addition to that, like it is so important to me that we change the current presidential situation,
Mhm.
and I wanted to do anything I could do possible to help. And so this was a natural pull for me.
Yeah, I think that's great and that's awesome. And I think we have a question from someone here. Can you elaborate more on your current position? I don't know if you missed our intro. So your title is, and I'll read it because it's a little.
It's
So you're
long.
Senior Associate Director for Allied Groups and Labor Engagement at the DNCC. So it's a pretty awesome title, I think, and I don't often meet people like you, and I think it's awesome that you're what you're doing. So I don't know if you're able to elaborate a little bit more, I guess, but you did say you work with different groups, correct, to try to have that like a grassroots type of manpower, correct, or something like that.
Yeah, so it is allied groups. So Latinx outreach, African American, women, youth, LGBTQ plus, and we are working with national orgs and doing everything we can to have our successful convention in August. So.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so thank you so much for telling us more. And I know that we kind of talked about um, transferring, but what skills are you using now that either you learned in law school or when you worked for a law firm? What are some of the things that you may be using now?
Um, and in different aspects. So as far as like the actual school part, it taught me to really refine my approach with things. It taught me to be a critical thinker. It taught me to the importance of studying and research and like really being able to get well-rounded with everything. But it's the internships, I think, really that I use the most now, because those gave me like live practice and they really threw me into everything that I'm able to reuse now. And it's their life experiences. I mean, the way that I worked with the public defender's office, the way that I worked with the California Innocence Project, those experiences taught me my purpose. Like at the end of the day, there are people that you're fighting for and changes that need to be made, and that is completely aligned. And until you get that experience, I don't know how else you can feel that. It's like a fire, you know?
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and I did read a little bit more of what you had done before. And can you tell us a little bit more like what you did during while in law school? Like you said you worked with the public defender's office. And can you tell our audience a little bit more what else you did?
Yeah, so I started with the California Innocence Project, and there we helped people that were imprisoned and they were wrongfully incarcerated. So we helped get them out of prison. That experience changed me like forever. Like I would do law school, all of that crazy studying 1,000 times over just to be a part of that
Wow.
alone, because of the interactions, because of the people I met, the family I grew. After that, I went on the path of criminal defense and worked at the public defender's office. I worked with felony, juvenile detention, And I also worked with some dependency law as well. So kind of like ironic, because I think that we are so set sometimes in what we think we're going to become and the space that we're going to take up, and you never know. Like, you know, it's I'm sitting in a totally different space now, very aligned, like same mission overall, but different. You know, it's not criminal defense anymore. It's more for the people in a different respect. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think you're right when you say you can go to law school thinking that you'll, do one thing and why would you use your law degree so expensive, but there's I think a lot of tools that you can use through your experiences. I know that's the case for a lot of the attorneys, especially this week. We're actually talking to other people who have a law degree, but they decided to do something else. And they still somehow connected to either policy or the legal field in some way using those tools. But it definitely is not practicing law, and they're still enjoying that life and the career. So we have lobbying as one of them. I know we might be having some students who are pre-law and considering going to law school. We might have some audience that are law students and they might be thinking, I don't want to practice law anymore, so what else is out there for me? Or we might have some of those who may not have passed the bar exam the first time and they're considering, okay, what it is that what I can do. I know that lobbying is one of them. Working for an organization or government, a government agency will be another one. What other examples have you seen or did you consider besides what you do right now? Other non-legal or closely related legal without having to have a license or practicing law that you considered?
So if somebody's debating it, I mean, my first recommendation will always be, if you're not 100% sure, it is expensive. You will learn emotions that you never knew you had, like ever. The best thing that you can do is get an internship. Like, be a law clerk. I was a law clerk before I was a law student because I definitely don't come from the privilege of being able to afford any other practice run. I needed that assurance. So I really recommend that. And anything like that, you can still do groundwork. You can still do community organizing. There's so much important work out there, and it doesn't need the law degree either for you to do it. You know, it helps, and it definitely gives me the flexibility to be able to do more because I can still keep that active and participate in other things, but it's not the end game, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we had some questions yesterday, or perhaps it was Monday, kind of a lot of similar themes throughout this week that we had someone say, well, I'm considering going to law school. I would like to just policy. And we do, and I have met a lot of people who, for me, it seemed like those were the tools. And I feel like for with the field that I wanted to go to, that I need to get into law school. But other people have found internships and work themselves up, or they had their bachelor degrees that was related to doing policy work, and that's how they ended up working and doing policy work. So that's for that was, I think the example we had was working for an environmental firm. So they were doing a lot of policy work and lobbying for environmental purposes. I think we have a question that just came in. Can you comment on attending law school in a state different from where you want to practice?
Yeah. I actually really recommend something like that. Like, I'd never, I'm first generation, so my family was like very strict and they did not want me to go out. Like, they're like, you should stay in school, like in Chicago. And then I was kind of dating somebody who was like on the same like mindset as that. And the best thing I did, knowing kind of that I was going to come home, but not 100%, was go away to school. Like, I went to California Western, and I don't think that transition affects anything. Like, you ultimately are going to determine your job. You will show yourself and you will show your resume, and the work is transferable. You can be in any state, you know, and I really recommend it because you grow. Like, that type of growth, being apart, and you're going to feel alone. Like that first semester, you're going to go through new emotions anyways, but that life experience, you can put a price on that. Like get away if you can while you don't have those commitments holding you back.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for me, my drive wasn't, a different day. It was like a 3 hour away drive, but I definitely can relate to those feelings of my mom. My mom, like she's my best friend, and so I was always very close to her, and I would hear her cry a lot when she missed me. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have the same experiences of wanting to be home and celebrating and not missing out on important holidays, but I had to put that aside just for the meantime because I
Yeah.
really wanted to earn that JD. So I think it's harder for a lot of our community to envision themselves going somewhere else, but it does open a lot of perspectives. New perspectives are always, for me, they always seem like very welcoming in my life. That and then something new yet scary can really bring me out of my comfort zone. So I think that's
Yeah.
really great advice, Ashley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really recommend that. And it does, like, when I say the beginning feels lonely, it feels lonely, and you are going through crazy emotions. I can't like stress that enough for anyone considering law school. Like I think everyone can say that like you will find out like different parts of yourself, and it will be all part of your growth process. But people who love you and those people that are supporting you, like they're going to totally understand all those things that you're missing. And those are the people that like you owe. I mean, I am nothing without those support systems. I have some amazing, amazing people in my life that really understood what it meant when I wasn't there, when I missed weddings, when I missed baby showers and birthdays, and they understood why, and that's important too. That's really important.
Mhm. Going along with that, we have a question from an audience. How long did it take to adjust to everything on your first semester of one L year?
Well, uh, 2 years maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I throw myself in things a lot, and so my perspective might be different than others. I started in a January spring semester, which is not typical. I did a 2.5 year law program, which is also not typical. And I wanted an internship and I wanted to do the Innocence Project right away. So I had like a month. So in addition to not adjusting 100% to my new environment, I had like dived like really deep. Um,
Wow. So
I
you
don't
did finish law
know.
school at 2.5 years, right? Is that wow? So you're one of those people I was talking about. They just jumped right in and wanted to, and then wow. Like, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I don't recommend that. I mean, listen, when you're supposed to when you're supposed to get to your place, like you're gonna get there, and it doesn't matter how quick you finish. Like I was in such an ego state where I thought it mattered. Like I couldn't be a viejita lawyer, like God forbid that, and it didn't matter because I was gonna be who I was gonna be when I needed to be that person. So, um, adjusting it, to answer your question, long story short, it's going to be on you and what you're comfortable with. The best thing that I can tell you right now, and this will help you with the bar, get your mind right. Like literally get your mind right. The only thing that can get in your own way is you. That's it. Like make sure that you're there for the right reasons, that you really find ways to align with your purpose, even if it's not the exact job, like align with why you're there always. And keep coming back to that. Like I think about moments all the time, like moments of defeat or, to stand in the place that I'm in. I never lack that gratitude for where I had to come from. So you have to sit in it. Like that's probably the best thing, and be strong enough to know that you can do these things and you will get over anything that is, that feels like you can't. It's temporary.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of times for me, I felt like I wanted to take care of my family, but at that time I needed them to take care of me. At least for that short amount of time where um, I could better myself with my education. And I think it's okay during that time to just be centered on your purpose. And I think that's something that's very important as for those who are watching and trying to decide if they do want to go to law school, and just like Ashley said, think about what it is that you want to do in the long run. And it might not be exactly where you think you'll end up, but
It
I
probably
think,
won't.
yeah.
Change your mind probably 3 times during law school, 9 times during the bar, and then every day. You're gonna get pushed into like where you're supposed to be eventually, but I don't think you're ever gonna really know, right?
Yeah. We have a few comments here. I think one of them is from your friend from Humboldt Park. So like, when do you sleep, Ashley? What do you do to balance yourself? Well, you just answered my question.
Yeah, I don't. I hope I did.
Yeah, it feels like I was not sleeping as much in law school for sure. And now I find myself in the evenings with quite a lot of time. Actually, right after, I don't know if you felt the same way in the evenings, like right after you're done. And like you did take the bar exam or you didn't, but when you're done, and then you're just you come home after work and you're like, what is my life now? Like, what do you
Yeah,
do?
no, I didn't know how to turn that off, so I started staying late, in my jobs, and I still kind of carry a little bit of that. I don't know if that leaves you 100%. I'm also like in a different position. Like I don't have kids, I don't have a husband, I don't have pets. I think someone just asked about that.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm just out here taking care of myself pretty much. So important
yeah.
too.
And I think it's interesting. I don't know if your law school did this, but my law school actually would bring in emotional support pets during finals. And we had a chance to
Yeah.
play with them and hug them and cuddle them during finals. And
Yeah, no, I lived like it was in the quad, and I like lived with those dogs. Like literally, I was like on the ground. Like that was great for me. So that was the closest I got to having a dog.
yeah, that was me too. And then my papa will come, I will come home and she will be smelling me like, did you betray me? Like, so that was life in law school. I'm really glad I have more time now to spend with my pups because I know that it helps me balance my life too, just their energy. So,
Yeah.
so if anyone has any more questions, go ahead and drop those in the comment boxes. I do have a couple more questions for you, and I hope that we do get more questions. Because now we're kind of flying by through these answers a little bit today. And I guess maybe thinking of prospects, job prospects. For those who may already be in law school and they're deciding, hey, I don't want to practice law now that I'm here. Maybe they have seen that they maybe don't want to be behind a desk all the time, or they don't want to be around people too much, like in court or something like that. So what are some um I guess career advice that you will give someone deciding from not practicing to looking for a different job? Like, what are some things that they could point out in their resume, from their experiences or their education, that they could kind of leverage for different jobs, so they could, I don't know if that's a very open-ended question for this,
No,
but
no,
maybe.
I
Yeah.
definitely get what you mean. And I had a lot of different, so I had a lot of jobs at once. I think I still have a lot of jobs at once. But you have to know your audience. So like if you're applying for a certain job, my best advice is you keep yourself well versatile, but have different resumes. Like if I was serving and doing anything in the bar industry, that was a different resume than what I had with marketing, and that was a different resume than what I had with law. So like really adjust. You can have a common theme. There's stuff that you can move around that kind of like align with one another, but versatility, make sure that and you are staying open to job opportunities. Internships is another one. Like I will come back to this, but I did a lot of free internships, and I definitely needed to be paid. I mean, I didn't come from money. I didn't have money during law school and during the bar, and so it was difficult. But you are taking a short-term hit for a long-term gain, and you will get experience. Like unfortunately, we're not at a place yet where people are willing to, you know, give you money that you deserve, but the experience will replace that. And it will, you know, there were certain opportunities I was thrown into that at the time I felt underappreciated because of the lack of pay, but I turned around and I gained some crazy, amazing mentors and really, really great experience that I get to put on my resume now. So that paid more. Like,
yeah. And I actually, probably you're the second person this week that has mentioned, or this past 3 weeks actually, that has mentioned even doing unpaid work. I know that for me, that was not an option. That was very hard. But I did volunteer. And in those volunteer positions, I was able to have letters of recommendation from attorneys who I had opportunity to volunteer with. So there's either, if it's either a letter of recommendation or maybe a connection, like another job prospect, that will pay off in the long run. So definitely consider, even just for a short time. Like I know that I did the immigration clinics with the church, and that's how I started, you know, meeting other people and getting pro bono hours as well, for because my school required pro bono hours. I'm not sure if every school requires one, but that was something that you should consider with connecting and building that network. I think networking is very
and it's personal. So like it might suck to take something that's unpaid, you know, or do the lowest paid, like whatever you really can do. I took another job on so I could kind of supplement what I was losing, but they gave me projects. They let me argue things. I argued a Fourth Amendment border violation like at a very early time in my law career, and I got to do some amazing work because it was free. So like, and because I had people that once they saw my type of work, because you will always show your own resume physically, they were like, okay, we trust her, like, you know.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah,
that's really impressive. That's amazing.
But it's because you have to take some hits, you know, like you got to be comfortable with some loss, like financial, you know, ramen is your best friend.
Yeah. And those were like my Sundays. Like I would volunteer in that way, and okay, am I getting paid for those hours? And then maybe it might run longer, but it was beneficial in the long run, and the relationships I built. And so I think it's definitely something to consider. Even if you're maybe not have a job right now, start volunteering. Maybe you'll meet someone that would say, I see something in you, and that it will help you find a way to find a paying job, I think. And we do have a few questions here from audience, and this one we're kind of going to I'll answer this one first. I'll have you answer this one first before we move on to the next topic that we have.
There's one. Can we answer the experience does not raise salary? Can I comment on that really quick?
Yeah, the average pay rate for lawyers, is that one that has decreased steadily over the years. Are you guys afraid of finding well-paying jobs? Is that the one that you're asking?
No, it just said experience doesn't increase salary. And I think that's actually a really important topic to discuss. In general, you have to be so stern in your worth when you do start getting paid. And you have to, maybe your first job, it won't be ideally the most well paid, but I think we lost you.
Sorry. That was like the screen exit.
But once you get out of that, like first experience, do not be afraid. Like get comfortable, because whoever wrote that, you're so right. Like there are people that will see your experience and they don't want to match up, and those aren't your people. Like you need the people that value you, like they will find a way to support you, and they will find a way to either meet you in the middle or pay you what you're worth. And I think that as Latinos and as people of color, like we have a problem asking for that, and we have a problem saying, and I still am very awkward about money. Like I'm like, but you have to find that, and you will find it. You will find people that will be so happy that you are a part of their team, and that are gonna give you what you deserve. Like don't settle for the people that are like, oh, I see that you're great and you'd be a great addition here, but like I'm gonna give you maybe 60 whatever less than everybody else. Like that's not your space either. Then you know it doesn't feel right, then don't be there.
And I think we do need to clarify that we're not saying do work for free. That is
Yeah,
not what I'm saying,
no.
because I want to clarify that this is about putting your foot in a different transition or space, a
Mhm.
different job that you might want to go into. If you don't
Yes.
have tools to get there yet, because maybe your resume is 30% less the requirements they're looking for, or like,
Mhm.
sorry, less than 30%, you're meeting less than 30% of the requirements you're looking for, you do need to build those skills in some way. And it's okay to volunteer, even if it's a few hours a week, to get those skills and move on to a paying job. For me, like, I have had to, even you can do this when I got paid for every single job in law school except for my what is it called, my my fellowships, but my fellowships still included money. And I ended up pairing up two fellowships so I could have enough to travel to Washington, D.C. And the other times I made sure that I negotiated, because I was bilingual and
Mhm.
I was a law student, and I wasn't just, going to be a paralegal. I was a law clerk. And coming out of law school, I still negotiated that, leveraging that, even if it was $5 difference between the $5 difference and the $1 difference, that is a still per hour, excuse me. And for me, that was important to negotiate that I could bring more to the table. And I have had to say no to other jobs just because they wouldn't be willing to work to
Mhm.
where I want to be. So as a law student, I still did that, and you should be doing it too,
Yeah.
especially once you're getting more experience. So that is not what we're saying. That we're saying that you should settle for something that is not paying you. That is definitely just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify that with you guys.
No, no, no. And I'm also gonna like preface that you have to find something in the middle, because you don't want to be in a place where they're paying you well, but you hate your job. Like that's like the worst place. I would rather be paid a lot less and love the people that I work with and the people that support me. So you got to know like your worth, and then also know that like genuinely they're not coming from a place where they can pay you and they don't want to. They're coming from like, this is what we have, we know you're worth it, like we'll come back to it later when we have more, like these are different conversations, but like really focus on always remembering your worth, and they will find different ways to meet that, and in the ways that they can, and also
Mhm.
knowing what is worth it. There's going to be a lot of opportunities that they're not worth it. Like it's just it isn't worth it, and people won't do that for you, not your people.
Yeah, for sure. And we do have other questions coming through, and this one relates to this. The average pay rate for lawyers has decreased steadily over the years. Are you guys afraid of finding well-paying jobs? If that
Yeah.
makes sense. But what's your experience? What's your take on that?
um there I am a little biased because I think that there's a deep seed of connection here in Chicago, in the sense that maybe people who are affiliated to money already kind of had those opportunities to get the well-paying jobs. And if you are first generation and you don't come from money and you don't come from these things, these privileges, they're a form of privilege, then maybe that isn't as accessible to you. But I think there was a blend. I think that it was probably the lower end of medium, or but I don't think that it was impossible either. And
Yeah.
I have to comment, you need to do a talk with Rich Negrin, because he just joined on here and he is the best. He's a fellow Cubano and he's a lawyer. He's awesome. So you need to just need to comment on that, because he definitely needs to do something with you.
Sorry. Oh my goodness. Yes, please. I would love to hear how I can collaborate with not just Latinas, but Latinos, and what, especially just hearing feedback and learning from. I love it. So
So,
thank you, Ashley. I'll have to message him after this, or if you can message me so I
yeah,
don't
no,
lose.
I'll connect you guys. There's a million great people on here, but had to
Yes.
comment that because I appreciate him.
Yeah, and no, I think another thing to consider is what type of law you want to go into. And if you're going after, because you do want to have it steady, be financially steady, you want to make a lot of money, or whatever it is that you drives you, make sure you make those connections, make sure that you're uh heading on that path, and that you're tailoring yourself around that. So I think that's something you should consider when you're applying to law school, not just when you're in it already. So
Yeah, no, and I think that if you are going to law school for the simple fact that you want to make a lot of money, don't like don't go to law school. Because I don't think the beginning is going to be what you think it is, and I don't think you're going to be rolling in that dough. It's not. It isn't what it used to be. You know that what people used to categorize it as. So
yeah, and talking about just being a first generation, I mean, my family didn't see a lot of money either. But when I was in law school, it was a lot of privilege, a lot, and not just because maybe they're Caucasian male, but because financially their families have built generational wealth,
mm-hmm.
and they had ins and outs of navigating the system very differently than a lot of us can or will because of
Yeah,
the connections that their families have. And the good side of the school I went to, looking at the people who are first generation, the people of color that I'm seeing in big law firms, the amount of them that I'm seeing in big law firms now is greater than when I was a 1L because the school in my school was just been they're so progressive in trying to get people in those positions and
yeah.
having building those connections. So it's really it is who you know. So definitely
But
too.
network, like get to know and get comfortable being uncomfortable. Go to things alone. Like if no one wants to go with you, you're not going to go to your job with all your friends. You're
Yeah.
literally going to be alone anyway. So talk to strangers, practice with people in general, and then get comfortable with that because one, you're going to learn about yourself, and two, you never know who you're going to meet. Like I've met some amazing people and I had no idea until maybe 30 minutes down the road that they were like, hey, wait, I can help you. And
Yeah.
you know, that's that's real. Just get out there, put yourself out there.
Yeah, for sure. And going along with the more questions from our audience, this one says sorry, give me a second. What are your ladies' bachelor degrees in? My school does not offer pre-law degree or something similar. Um, yeah, we want to go ahead and answer that, Ashley.
Yeah. So I was a psychology major, and then I was like two classes short of sociology, and I did concentration of law, but it wasn't like a pre-law thing. It was just like they had that so you could get that exposure. And back then it was like criminology and things like that. So it wasn't even as direct or pointed. Um, I've seen it all. I've seen people who were pre-med and then they went to law school. I've seen people who did engineering and they went to law school. Like, I don't think that you need to be constricted to a certain degree, but you should definitely enjoy and also think about what you want to do with that degree if you don't go to law school. Like, what is
Mm-hmm.
that?
Yes, and for me, I was a pre-med student. My first 2 semesters, sorry, for 2 years of college, and halfway through, I switched. So I had junior standing in my biology and pre-med degree, and then I switched to English and history. So I have a degree in history and a degree in English separately. And I finished, I think, a total of 4.5 years because I switched so later, and that's okay. I did an English degree help me? No, it did not help me. Did the history degree help me? It helped me maybe in retaining information better, but you don't have to be in a pre-law degree. You don't have to have pre-law anything. You don't have to have a certain specific degree to go to law school. And honestly, you will learn how
Yeah.
to do any law related anything in your law school experience. So
And they're gonna unteach everything you learn. so
yeah.
so you can really get any degree and they're going to tell you how you should be using it. So
Yeah, that was in college. I was like, oh man, I'm so like I would help my mom and my brother in their schooling. Like I would edit their papers because they went to school with me too. And
yeah.
I was like, I'm so good, and I was a tutor in English. I'm so good at writing. I went to law school, and the first semester of my writing class, it was just it was awful.
Oh,
I
yeah.
my paper was all red, just marked up, and I was getting like really bad. I don't remember what my grade it was, but it was definitely like a C minus. I was like, what in the world should I drop out of law school? And I had to learn. I had to learn because it it definitely is a whole different level and a whole different type
Yeah.
of writing too. So don't be intimidated by that either. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No
yeah.
two no two professors grade the same either. So like don't let that be the end all like in law school of like, the way that you write or don't write.
Yeah.
No two lawyers, like your bosses, will like view the way you write very differently. No one, I could be a great writer to one person, and then to another person I am like, the worst thing that happened to them. So it's just, it's so, yeah, all of it is so subjective.
It is very subjective, and especially the type of law that you would like to go into. I could definitely write something for immigration court, but if you send me to, I don't know, something else that it's not related, or family, like something else that's not related to what I was doing, then I will have to learn and make sure that I'm meeting the type of writing that they're expecting too. So,
Yeah.
but you'll learn that. So, my example probably not the best example now thinking about it, but do not be intimidated by that. So, I
Yeah.
do have another question here. Is it recommended to have a job while attending law school, especially for students who live away from home?
So they say no, right? Like they say no job ever, like to focus on internships and school. You've got to do what you got to do. And I didn't have one during law school, and it helped. I did have one during the bar, and it hurt, but it helped because I had to turn the lights on. Um, you monitor it. I wouldn't do anything full time unless you're part time, and you know what you can give, and when you feel like you're over giving, that's when you need to have that real talk with yourself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my school had to sign a waiver that we couldn't, if you were enrolled as a full-time student, you can only work so many hours or something like that. So you do have to look at what your school says, because for me, like we had disagreements or so many hours or something like that. But I was that's why I went to the part-time program, because I just had no choice. I had to work. But for me, looking back, I'm glad I did. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was hard. It was difficult. Sometimes I think towards the end of my last semester of law school, I was worn out. Um, but that's when your self-care and your coping skills you have to try to know yourself. Not, like Ashley said, not to push yourself. Because not to push yourself too hard. Because pushing yourself can be healthy up to a point, but then you have to really take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to be driven, but to the point that you also know when you read the warning signs that you can't be emptying out of in an empty cup. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure that you are checking the hours that you're putting into your studying, because you have to make sure you do well in law school.
Yes.
So definitely balancing that. And I'd say if you're a part-time student, definitely you should have, if you don't work full-time, at least part-time, I think you gain a lot of valuable skills. And that's just my take, because that was my experience of part-time. Actually was a full-time. Do you have any hours did you work during law school potentially,
So
or?
I realize now that I'm defining my non-work as my internships, but I did have to still do that clearance, and I had to do 40 hours. I usually ended up doing a little over 40 hours or something. I was somewhere in the rule around it, while also being in school full time. So 15-ish hours, and then interning about 40 hours,
Mhm.
uh, from start to finish. So
Oh,
yeah. So you got to know what I mean. My friend Tanya kind of commented on that. Like, she knows me. I don't sleep. I don't sleep a whole lot. uh, I could use it. I still am trying to catch up to some sleep. So definitely, what do they say? Like, do as I say, not as I do.
yeah, and I think a lot of times we do talk about balance, but like I said, my last semester I wore myself out, and so much that I did not want to study for the bar exam, and that was my experience, my own fault. But now that I'm trying to balance my schedule, it's something I had to relearn,
Yeah.
because of that culture is driving yourself as much as you can, and there is a point that you have to watch out for, because you
Yeah.
can burn yourself out quickly. And I think it's something that we should be talking about more, in
That's
the
real.
what those, because I think a lot of times, and I was guilty of this, just bragging about how much work I put in when I was in law school. And now that I'm looking back, I'm like, someone should have said, no, it's not, not good to drive yourself that much. But at the same time, I felt like I had no choice, is because financially it was just really hard for me. And so
Yeah.
yeah. So that's something that we can have a different discussion on. But
No, that's
yeah.
a very good conversation, because I think a lot of us, we see the cookie cutter version of what law school looks like, and we're just excited to see representation in that space. And we're not talking about how hard it is. I mean, to say that I didn't cry to pay bills and worry about things or take out loans, I mean, that's a conversation that I think does need to be have, and maybe to learn from some of the mistakes that we made, but we didn't know. We didn't have the right resources. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We are getting quite a lot of questions, which is great. I'm really happy that this is helping you guys, that you guys are tuning in and listening to our conversation. Let's see. Here's another question. Let's see. I'm interested in the intersection between civil rights and corporate law. Are there any avenues you will recommend for the future?
yeah, civil rights has a big part of my heart, like forever. You can work at firms that do both. I know a firm in Chicago that does civil rights work, and they also do business law. So you can do both. Like, honestly, that is a really great point. Look for firms that are versatile. If you are versatile, if you're attracted to a lot of different things, don't go to just a family law firm. Like, you need to find something that can adapt to or feed all parts of you, and that's important. So you can do both. Um, or you can do something in between, where like you work in corporate law and you care about civil rights. So then you work with a community org at the same time. You join, give your Saturdays doing civil rights work.